Hello, we're back. Alright, hopefully my audio is okay. If it's not, please let me know. Quite an entertaining scheme. Well then, what are the conditions they've attached? Well, whether or not Kraus-sama actually discovers the gold, he'll pay Eva-sama, Rudolph-sama, and Rosa-sama a total of 7.5 billion yen for their shares. However, 10% of that will be paid before March. Kraus, you dunce! To think he would have his feet swept out from under him by his younger siblings. How truly amusing. Hold on, let me crunch my cough drop. It sounds as though they tripped when going in for the kill, yes? Yes. Kraus-sama exposed the fact that Eva-sama and the younger siblings all have an urgent need to get money. Is there even any need to expose such obvious facts? That irresolute, incompetent man. What are they doing now? That conversation has been put on hold for the time being. Now, Beatrice-sama's epitaph is being discussed. So, you're trying to solve the riddle and find out where my gold is hidden? Yes. Kinzo set down his spectacles and snorted. Will the miracle be fulfilled first, or will those fools expose the gold first? What a show this will be! At the very moment those fools solve my puzzle, I will suffer utter defeat. They can suck my corpse down to the last fragment of bone. The greed of fools can allow great magic to bring forth a miracle. And yet, if the fulfillment of the miracle comes first, Beatrice will be resurrected again. The smile I've been chasing half my life will be restored. Oh, Beatrice, soon will come the sacred night when we shall bet upon a miracle, and the game of demons shall begin. I will surely prove triumphant and survive. I'll let you have the lives of all those others. I don't need wealth or honor or assets or gold or anything. All I want is to see your smile one last time. Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Kanon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo motioned for him to stop. Do you know why I went to the trouble of exposing the hidden location of the gold in a place that everyone can see? No. It's because magical power is determined by risk. If the number of people who try to discover Beatrice's gold is great, and the danger of them succeeding is great as well, then the power of magic will bring about a grand miracle if we succeed despite the odds. Thank you for the hydrated stretch kimono. How are you? In other words, magic is a game. It is not the case that the one who performs the best becomes the victor. The victor performs the best because he's been granted magic. Do you see? It is similar to how the miracle of life can be granted only after winning against the divine odds of several 100 million to 1. Is this a little difficult for you? My apologies. That's fine. It all comes down to this. I will give them all that I have built up to the one who solves the mystery of Beatrice's epitaph. Wealth, honor, gold, and the inheritance of the Ushinomiya family. Everything that I have established. My children certainly aren't the only ones with the right to attempt to solve this riddle. Anyone who solves the riddle will have the right to gain everything. Even you. Yes. However, I couldn't possibly understand such a difficult riddle. Of course, I made it difficult. But you must try and solve it as well. That will form the seed that summons the miracle of my magic. If everyone attempts it and everyone fails, that will be that. However, if the miracle comes together and give birth to magical power, it will happen. I think it's supposed to be gives. Beatrice will revive. That is why you must attempt it too. Everyone must attempt it. And in doing so, they will give strength to my magic. Do you understand? Yes, I will try. For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and clutching at his head. Kanon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo eventually realized this. Very well. Leave me. There's a bag of sweets on the liquor cabinet. You can take some with you as a reward. I'm fine. After all, I'm furniture. So furniture doesn't eat sweets. Well, I suppose it stands to reason. In that case, leave me. Yes. Excuse me. Kanon bowed and left the study. As the door closed, a heavy locking noise sounded out. But it was not the sound of Kanon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to seal himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. He was already unable to trust anyone excepting... He was already unable to trust anyone excepting... What? Oh. He was already unable to trust anyone except not the children who shared his blood, but those servants who called themselves furniture. I don't know why it said accepting, but like, English hard. Nanjo-sama, how are you feeling? Ah, Genji-san. Oh, it's just that there's no place for me to be anymore. With a bitter laugh, Nanjo turned to face the door to the parlor. That look was apparently enough to tell Genji what Nanjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family situation. It must have made him want to frown, knowing that right now in the lounge, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. But it would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression. Still, I don't understand. Why did Kinzo-san have something so provocative written, I wonder? Nanjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait, at the plate with the epitaph. Not presume to understand the master's thoughts. However, I'm sure he had a deep reason for doing so. Since long ago, when Kinzo-san played chess, he would always prepare his moves according to some far-reaching judgment. Sometimes even to make moves I couldn't understand. For an average person like me, it was impossible to see through to whatever he was planning. Sometimes I wonder if this might be some kind of will in the master's eyes. Perhaps he wishes to hand over his wealth and title to the one who can understand it. So, you're thinking he may have wanted the four siblings to work together and solve the riddle, before some outsider like myself solved it? Kinzo-san may speak of his children in insulting terms, but perhaps he also wants them to repair their relationship. It certainly would be heartwarming if, as Nanjo had suggested, this epitaph had been made to repair the siblings' relationship. However, both Nanjo and Genji knew that nothing could be more impossible than this. They'd known Kinzo longer than anyone, and Kinzo trusted them more than his own relatives. But even they could not guess at his true motives. Master always says that everyone has the right to try and solve the riddle, even if they aren't a member of his family. What about you, Dr. Nanjo? No. It's a little too difficult a puzzle for this senile old man. Actually, I once wrote this epitaph down on my notebook. Night after night, I would try to solve it before going to sleep. But, it really is hard. It looks like we might have some free time to relax and consider it before someone comes to get us. What do you say, Genji-san? I am nothing more than furniture in service to the master. Golden assets are unnecessary to me. Ah, you're very modest. I imagine that's why Ginzo-san trusts you so much. If so, I am honored. As Nanjo lightly laughed in response, he once again looked at the epitaph. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. The epitaph on the portrait, called My Beloved Witch Beatrice, goes as follows. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. 1 shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. 1 shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. 1 shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. 1 shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. Interesting. So, on the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you reach the Golden Land. You really are diligent, Maria. You did a good job writing this all down.
Ugh! I forget a lot, so I always write things down. Mama told me to.
There was a notebook inside the handbag Maria was always carrying around, and Beatrice's epitaph was copied onto it. Thanks to that, we were all able to challenge the puzzle of the epitaph while walking down this beach. Jessica and the rest had already tried to solve it several times, and had already gotten bored with it. However, since this was a first for me, I was so excited that I couldn't stop. It really tickled my sense of adventure. Let's start with the first line. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. Where was grandfather's hometown again? I heard that before the war, the Ushiromiya family had a mansion near Odawara, which makes you want to know which Sweetfish River flows through Odawara, right? Yeah, because that river would be the starting place. Anyone searching for the Golden Land would head down that and search for the key. What's this river in Odawara? Does it have sweetfish swimming in it? If you're looking for sweetfish in Odawara, it would have to be Hayakawa. It's famous for its mountain stream fishing.
Ugh! I hate fish!
Maria, you'll understand when you get a bit older. Lick, lick, lick! Salty roasted sweetfish. Yummy! Even though we just ate, I'm getting hungry again. Shall I bring you a biscuit? Huh? Oh, sorry. That's not what I meant. Don't mind it. Shannon-chan was faithfully keeping us company, since she didn't have any afternoon chores for a while. I would have thought that since she's a servant, accompanying us would force her to take care of us and tire her out, but that didn't seem to be the case for her. On the contrary, she seemed to enjoy joining in on a conversation with people close to her age. When I asked, I heard that she was the sort of worker whose room and board were supplied by her employer. So normally, the only person close to her in age was Jessica. Yeah, I can imagine how that might be pretty dull. Okay, so I get that the sweetfish-filled river near Odawara is Hayakawa. In that case, we've gotta go down it. You find anything if you head down Hayakawa River? If you follow it downstream, you'll arrive at the ocean. Of course! You've reached the mouth of the river! And the third line of the epitaph was, as you travel down it, you'll see a village. By the way, since long ago, the mouths of rivers have been key points in transportation, and large cities tend to be built there. That'd be the next checkpoint. That's a pretty good theory. Just like you guessed, there's an old city there that was very prosperous in ancient times. That's where Odawara Castle is. I think I might have gone to Odawara Castle on a field trip once. It was a really wonderful castle. Yeah, I also went there. Even though I live in a Western-style house, it's true that Japanese people feel calmer with a Japanese layout.
Castles are boring. Theme parks are better.
I see. Okay, if we find the gold, the Great Battler Summon will generously reserve a whole theme park for a day and let you play in it. Still, Odawara Castle, huh? The hidden gold of Odawara Castle. Oh, it's actually starting to sound pretty good. Well, we figured out that much 2 years ago. The village down the river where the sweetfish swim in Odawara. We figured it was probably somewhere near Odawara Castle. The problem is the next line. Okay, let's see where Battler's strange reasoning can take him. Jessica grinned broadly. She seemed to be implying that she would have solved the puzzle long ago if it was that easy. Dang it! I'll definitely find it and keep it all for myself! The fourth line. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. I don't know what it means by the two, but anyway, the shore. Just passing by, hope you have fun. Thank you for dropping by, Majestic Dirt. I appreciate it. What does it mean by the shore? No, wait. Is there any place near there with shore or kishi in its name? I've heard there's a place called Sogakishi in Odawara. Huh? Wow, you sure know a lot about it. What could that mean? Shannon-chan, are you trying to solve the riddle and get the gold too? That makes us rivals. It's not like I'm interested in gold. It's just that George-sama told me about it before. That's because we reached the same conclusion 2 years ago. We even went to the trouble of laying out a map and looking it up. It was about 5 kilometers to the north of Odawara. We definitely found a place called Sogakishi there. However, after that, we get stuck. The fifth line doesn't say where the key is hidden in that place. Maria-chan, could you read it for us?
There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. I could read it.
Sogakishi is probably large, and there wasn't ever any house built there by the Ushinomiya family. Not much we could do to find a key in such a vast area without any hints. You're right, and without the key, we can't advance to the next line. George Aniki, what kind of place is Sogakishi? Let's see. I've never been there, so I don't really know. But according to the map, it's in the mountains. I'm pretty sure it was at the base of Mount Asama. Something doesn't feel right. You'd expect a riddle pointing the way to hidden gold to be a bit more exact. I get the feeling that even the part about Sogakishi was a mistake. Well, I think it could be Sogakishi. It could be talking about some house that grandfather lived in when he was a kid that we don't know about. After all, the first line mentioned his beloved hometown. Shannon, you've served grandfather alcohol and stuff lots of times, right? Hasn't he ever talked to you about his past? The master almost never speaks of the past. However, he talks of the Great Kanto earthquake as though it was someone else's story, so he may have been living far away from the Kanto area. The Ushinomiya family may have been living in Odawara, but not all of the branch families were. Grandfather often called himself part of a branch family, the least connected to the successor. And that means the beloved hometown might not even be Odawara at all. I've never heard anything about grandfather's hometown, and I doubt he'd actually tell me if I asked. If the so-called beloved hometown isn't referring to the Ushinomiya family's roots, then the Odawara theory is wrong from the beginning. Of course, this doesn't completely remove the possibility that it was Sogakishi. For example, perhaps he lived in Odawara when he was very young, but then moved far away later.
I I don't understand what you're all talking about. Ooh.
Maria had been completely left out of the conversation, and she now sat puffing out her cheeks in boredom. So, basically, if we can't even agree on the starting point for this dice game of gold, we're totally stuck. But wait, after the first 5 lines, the thing we end up finding is a key, right? Even if you don't have a key, it's always possible to bust through a door. Can't we just skip the first 5 lines and start figuring out the rest? Oh. I hadn't thought of that. Oh well, we're just wasting time anyway. Let's hear the rest of Battler's reasoning. But in the next part, it gets dark very fast. Shannon-chan frowned slightly. After looking back at Maria's notebook to recall what was written there, yeah, I was forced to agree. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. It sure does get horrible quickly. On the second twilight, it says to tear apart the 2 who are close. Does that mean to make them break off their loving relationship? Or does it mean to literally tear them apart? I don't know, but either way, it's pretty disgusting. Even if we set that second line aside, it mentions 6 people for the first twilight, then 5 people for the 4th through 8th twilights, so at least 11 people must be sacrificed.
Ooh, their sacrifice is to revive Beatrice.
I see. Sacrifices to restore the witch. Yeah, that's what it'd mean. Near the end, the witch will be revived on the 9th twilight. That last part is guaranteed. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. So, everyone will die in the end. And after that, oh my gosh. And after that, the 10th twilight is the gold line. Not sure how you're supposed to reach the Golden Land if everyone's dead by then. Depending on how you interpret it, the traveler who holds the key may or may not be included in the none shall be left alive part. But at the end, there's something pretty interesting. After reaching the goal, the witch gives out 4 treasures. 1 shall be all the gold. The problem is the next one. It says the dead souls will be resurrected, right? Doesn't that sound like it means everyone who died in the earlier lines? If you put it like that, then the part about reviving lost love might refer to the pair torn apart on the 2nd twilight. That's right, and the 4th one refers to the 9th twilight. The 4th treasure is putting the witch, revived on the 9th twilight, to sleep. If we put a happy spin on all this, it'll be hectic with people dying and breaking up all over the place, but it'll all be made right in the end. The awakened witch will sleep again, and everything will be like it was at the start, except with a huge pile of gold. The witch must be pretty busy, what with all the killing, reviving, breaking up, and reuniting people. Not to mention waking up and sleeping. Sheesh. Just when the tale of the hidden gold was getting interesting, it all gets pretty dubious once the witch starts showing up. Too true. I laughed along with Jessica. After all, the idea of a witch was just too ridiculous. Of course, once we started laughing like that, Maria, who believed in the witch, got angry.
Ugh, the witch is incredible. She can do anything with magic. Even kill. Even bring back to life. Even give love. Even take it. She can fly in the sky, can become invisible, can even make golden bread out of nothing.
Dang. My bad. We were just joking. Jessica apologized, sticking out her tongue, but Maria didn't accept it. She grabbed her notebook back out of my hands and, opening to some other pages, tried to prove that the witch existed. Those pages had colorful drawings of witches on them, and well conveyed the fantastical image Maria had of witches. It wasn't the normal sinister image of a crooked-nosed hag flying around on a broom, but a dreamlike person with unnatural powers who could do anything and wore a beautiful dress. It was just what you'd expect from an imaginative young girl. Flitting through the sky, crossing a rainbow, dancing around all night with a teacup and a teapot that would never get empty no matter how much you poured out of it. With a flourish of her staff, the stars in the sky would become candy and pour down, and flowers that produced sweets would bud by the roadside. To Maria, witches were the only concept that could embody the magical dream that so captivated her. As she grew older, it was the last remaining thing that could give richness to her dull and plain everyday life. That's why Maria believed in witches. She didn't want that dream of hers to be tarnished. That's why she didn't want anyone to tarnish the epitaph, which affirmed the existence of witches. Because the witch named Beatrice is Maria's dream. To Maria-chan, the epitaph isn't a guide to the hidden gold, but magic to revive the witch. So it was the single link between Maria and the witch. Maria was very angry and clung to George Aniki. Jessica and I scratched our heads and apologized. It might not be possible to smooth things over again, like the time she got mad in front of the portrait. Maria didn't seem willing to be easily consoled. Unlike Jessica and I, who hung our heads, wondering what to do, Shannon-chan timidly opened her mouth. Maria-sama, did you know? There's a ghost story about Beatrice that has been passed down among the servants. Yeah, that's right. Shannon, tell us about it. I don't really know, but it's apparently pretty famous among the servants. What is this? A ghost story? Yes, it seems it's a story from before we were born. I also heard about it from my mother. Yes, it has been passed down since the time of the mansion's construction. The servants at that time whispered that the mansion had two masters, one of the day and one of the night. The tale that Shannon told was just a typical campfire ghost story. If there was a forest with a witch living inside of it, then of course the witch would come pay the mansion a visit from time to time. At some point, this ghost story naturally sprouted up between the servants. When people do the rounds a second time to check doors, windows and locks that were supposedly closed, they'd find some of them left open. Lights that were supposed to be off were turned on, and lights that were supposed to be on went out. Things left lying around would disappear, and things would appear when no one had any memory of putting them there. When any of these things happened, the old servants would say that the witch had visited the mansion, invisible, and was playing pranks.
See? She exists! Beatrice exists!
Yeah, she exists. Long ago, it was always right before leaving for school that I wasn't able to find my bag and stuff. Maria puffed out her chest with an as though this was final proof of the witch's existence. If I opened my mouth, Maria would probably be hurt again, so I didn't. I mean, you hear this kind of story everywhere. Depending on the place, they might blame it on a dwarf or an elf. The only difference is, they call it a witch on this island. Of course, walking around a vast, elegant mansion at night would be a little unsettling. It's an island devoid of people. Since the mansion is so drafty, walking around on the night of a thunderstorm would certainly be eerie. In addition, some servants have also seen will-o'-the-wisps and glittering butterflies dancing around. Kanon-kun also saw something like that when he went patrolling one night. And recently, you often hear servants talking about strange footsteps heard inside the mansion near midnight. What have I missed? Yippee! Okay, welcome in, Gray. So to recap, Kinzo was talking to Kanon about how all of his kids are trying to solve the riddle. And basically, he's like, if they solve the riddle, then I lose. But if everybody tries to solve the riddle, and my miracle happens before that, then I win and Beatrice is going to be revived. And the riddle is basically like, there's a bunch of steps, but it involves going to what is assumed to be Kinzo's beloved hometown, follow a river, find a village, and there's a key in the village. And then once you get the key, you sacrifice a bunch of people, revive the witch, and the witch is gonna kill everybody remaining, and then give the last person the witch is gonna give the last person 4 gifts, and one of the gifts is gold, one of the gifts is reviving everybody that died, one of the gifts is restoring love or something, I forgot. And then the last one is that she be put to sleep forever. And so the adults are talking about how to solve the riddle, the kids are talking about how to solve the riddle, and some of the servants and the doctor are also talking about the riddle. So far, it's going according to Kinzo's plan. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And then Battler and Jessica were laughing about the witch, because they're like, oh yeah, witches, they can't exist, and then Maria got mad at them, and she was like, witches do exist! So now Shannon is telling them a story about how the mansion might be haunted by a witch. Kinzo just wants to riz Beatrice, literally. So yeah, we'll see. But like, it's kind of weird, because like, he's trying to revive her, right? But then if they find the gold. During the process, they do revive her. So, like, doesn't Bro kind of win either way? Like, yeah, she gets put to sleep again, but Bro's gonna die anyway. I don't know. Very interesting, though. I hope Battler gets her instead just to rage bait Kinzo. That'd be really funny. We whispered together that the Beatrice-sama in the portrait sometimes makes herself invisible and walks through the mansion. Yeah, he wins either way. That's what I mean, but like, I guess we'll see. It happened a while ago, but even I've heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resemble these stories. Phew, that's scary. Ah, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice-sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master. So there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad. However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right? Correct. I've heard that just before I began working here, someone who spoke badly about Beatrice-sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice-sama's anger had been brought down upon this person.
Anger will definitely be brought down on Battler and Jessica.
I'm sorry. I don't want her anger brought down upon me. I apologize, Maria. Of course, I also apologize to the witch. I'm sorry, Beatrice-sama. Please forgive an outsider's nonsense. I'll apologize as well. I'm sorry, Beatrice-sama. Will the witch be able to forgive us now? Ha! They deserve this.
Don't know. Witches are fickle, so they forgive when they want to and don't when they don't.
That's no good. Maria-chan, isn't there some kind of good luck charm that could prevent Battler-kun and Jessica-chan from suffering Beatrice-sama's wrath? Maybe something that can block against magic? By relying on Maria, who was proud of knowing the most about witches, George was trying to revive her self-esteem. Once again, I've gotta admire his ability to calm kids down. After taking a moment to cross her arms and seriously ponder whether there might be a charm that could save us, she started flipping through the pages in her notebook. I thought it was just a scribbled diary, but there also seemed to be quite a few pages that looked like they'd come from a book on black magic. I'm sorry, what? Where did Tiny Child get her hands on black magic books? Maria solemnly considered a group of these pages, which contained things that looked like magic circles. Apparently, Grandfather wasn't the only one with a black magic hobby. When Maria finally found what she was looking for, she snapped the notebook shut and threw it into her handbag. She then began fishing through the bag's contents. There seemed to be various jumbled up things in there. After a while, she took out various pieces of junk, although they were probably important magical items to Maria, and repeatedly threw them back in, saying they were wrong. It was all a little humorous, just like when Doraemon took out the wrong tool. 1980s equivalent of unrestricted internet access, so true. Finally, she seemed to discover what she was looking for. With a face that was unimaginably cheery when compared to the intense expression she had worn until just now, she held those out to Jessica and me. I grabbed it, and saw that it was a very cheap-looking charm. It looked like a bracelet made from a plastic rosary, with a scorpion-themed medal attached. Have you ever seen those cheap Zodiac-themed accessories? The kind you might win in a crane game at an arcade. It looked really like... Oh, it really looked something like that. There were 2 of them. Probably one for me and one for Jessica. However, the very fact that there were 2 of them made them feel even more like cheap manufactured goods, making it pretty hard to think of them as magical items. You're giving these to me and Battler?
With these charms, you don't even need to worry about Beatrice, because scorpions have the power to ward off magic.
Huh. Really? Didn't know scorpions could do that.
Battler doesn't believe.
I'd said too much and angered Maria again. Maria took out her notebook again, pointing out various pages as she went on and on about how the scorpion had such incredible holy power that it had been used in magic-repelling magical circles since ancient times. Is this true? I'm curious. I've heard about that from some of the other young servants. Something about how the scorpion is drawn as a magic-repelling symbol in sorcery. Huh, really?
The scorpion Scorpion protects against bad magic and calamity. An emerald brings peace to the heart. Therefore, its effects are twofold. Ugh.
The elusive Japanese scorpion. I'm gonna look this up. Do scorpions repel magic? All I'm getting is scorpion deterrent. So, I guess not. Alright. It's true. The scorpion wraps around the emerald and protects it. Yes, that certainly does sound like it would work well. I really wanted to make fun of those worthless-looking charms, but as I watched Maria explaining with all her heart and realized that she'd found them for our sakes, I started to feel like it might actually work, even if it was just a prize from some game center. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm just not looking up the right thing, but that's all I found. The material quality of the charm didn't matter. What mattered was the strength of her feelings. Even I don't think of myself as the sort of loser who'd laugh at something like that. Okay, thank you. I apologize to Beatrice-sama, but even if I do end up getting cursed, I'll be safe now thanks to Maria's charm. Right, Jessica? Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Maria.
Ugh. Wear it on your arm when you want your heart to be at peace. Put it in your wallet and your money won't decrease. If you hang it from a doorknob, bad things can't get in. It's a really convenient charm.
The power of friendship, yeah. What an incredible effect. If Maria-sama gives it her confident seal of approval, then it surely must be reliable. Low-key, stick it in your wallet. That sounded like a good thing to me. Shannon-chan clapped her hands together, and Maria stuck out her chest. She was totally in a good mood again. It's probably best if we let her lead the conversation a bit longer, if it'll keep her in such a good mood. Come to think of it, she looked a bit bored when we were getting excited about the hidden gold. Probably because she couldn't keep up. While eating the cookies Kumasawa-san had baked, Jessica and I asked Maria this and that about black magic. Maria happily chatted away in response to our questions. Each time, George, Aniki, and Shannon-chan would act surprised or chime in. The clouds in the sky grew darker and darker, but we cousins really enjoyed communicating freely after a year of separation. Did I just feel a drop on my forehead? Huh, I wonder. As George Aniki rubbed his forehead, he looked up at the sky. Considering the color of the sky and the dampness of the air, it wouldn't have been odd for a raindrop to hit him. The wind also seemed to have grown a bit stronger. Maria inspired me last week to buy cookies. What kind of cookies?
I didn't feel a drop. Only I didn't. Ugh.
Don't worry, neither did I. Anyway, I'm sure it'll rain so much tonight that everyone will get to feel plenty of raindrops. That's right. Maybe we should head back soon. Shannon-chan looked down at her watch. It was probably well into the evening by now. Is it already time for you to return to your work? Yes. Thank you very much for allowing me to enjoy some time together with you all. Tell Kumasawa-san thanks for the cookies. Okay, everyone. Help out with the cleanup. Shannon-chan declined our help, saying that this was a servant's job. But picking up a dropped fork before the waitress has to is like my purpose in life. Shortbread so I could have it with tea? Ooh, that sounds yummy. I love shortbread cookies. We folded up the blanket, gathered up the trash, and helped clean everything up. And what kind of tea did you have with it?
The trash is getting away!
I won't let it escape! I'll grab it before Maria does.
I'll grab it!
Maria, don't get your shoes wet. You'll get in trouble. To Maria, chasing after some trash sent flying by the powerful winds was just another game. By the time we finished, the wind was blowing pretty strongly. Probably a good time to head back. You've all helped me out a lot. Thank you very much. Looks like you're really out of time. It's okay if you head back first. George Aniki perceived from her hurried appearance that very little of her free time was left. Genji-san's very strict about time. Black tea but peach and lavender. Ooh, sounds fancy. I feel like tea party vibes are just, they're so peak. We have tea with our grandma every Friday when we visit her, and it's so nice. If you don't show up where you're supposed to be at the right time, I bet he'll be pissed. We'll see you later. Do your best with your work. Yes. Then, if you'll excuse me. After making a respectful bow, Shannon-chan ran towards the rose garden. Okay, let's head back to the guest house. We can watch TV or something and relax a little.
Ugh. Wanna watch TV. Wanna watch TV. Ugh.
Then it's decided. Let's all head back and watch TV together. Maria, who wasn't done having fun, agreed once television was mentioned. We climbed up the gentle stairs and returned to the rose garden. Tea parties are fun. I like snacks and feeling fancy, right? There's something about tea that just feels extra fancy, you know? The wind had grown very strong, and roses shook throughout the garden like ripples on the water. This might be our last chance to see these beautiful roses. I'll bet tonight's typhoon ruins them. These roses might be done in by tonight's winds. You're right. Still, I think the roses were pretty lucky. After all, they got to welcome all of you before the typhoon. All flowers lose their petals eventually, but that means we can admire them even more when they're in bloom. That's right. Maria, burn this image into your eyes. At this moment, they're the best roses of the year. I'll have my tea and Kinzo can have his green slop drink. So true.
Ugh. Burned into eyes.
Right then, Maria suddenly clapped her hands. It looked like she'd remembered something.
My rose! The typhoon will send it flying!
Oh, you mean that sad-looking rose George Aniki marked with a ribbon? Maria apparently remembered where the rose was. She ran at full speed. The rest of us followed her. Where was that again? I'm sure it was somewhere around here. We searched everywhere around that area, but it was only a single flower among all these roses after all. Even though we knew it was somewhere close by, we weren't able to find it. The winds making up the typhoon's front lines made roses throughout the garden undulate. It was almost like it was teasing us by making the location of Maria's rose impossible to find. Maybe it wasn't here. Let's try spreading out a bit in our search. Sounds good. Let's go for strength in numbers. What's up, Maria? As we made to split up and search, Maria tugged on my jacket with an unhappy face. You could tell that she didn't want us to leave that spot. What is it? What's wrong? I feel like I need to look at everyone's original sprite for this game, but I feel like we haven't met all the characters yet, so I don't want to spoil myself. I might be able to turn it on. Hold on. Is it system? Okay, wait. I can save just in case. And then... Is it in options? Maybe not. Yeah, okay, maybe I can't switch it back. Maybe I have to, like, show it before I download the patch. They have a specific charm to them. It's fun to see the original. I do like the fancier art, though, yeah. I feel like... Hold on. Okay, well, I found some. Oh, Battler. Oh, Battler. Hang on. Let me... I'm gonna DM you. I can't even recognize some of these people. Who are you? I guess those are the 4 siblings? But, like... If that's Rosa, she looks like a student. Surely... Is that Jessica? I can't tell. I genuinely cannot tell. But I shouldn't scroll anymore. I don't want to spoil myself either. Fear!
My rose is here! It's here!
But it's actually not, right? Maybe it was on the other side of the flower bed. If we all look, we'll find it fast, okay?
It's here!
Rosa looks 14. Oh no. That's what surely it's not, right? But who else could it be? Hey, maybe Umineko Rosa original sprite. Okay, wait, no, it's not her. That must be Jessica. Hold. Okay, yes, I found her. I guess that is Jessica then? Ooh. Glad the oldest brother is still ugly, yeah. I feel like they did a pretty good job, copying this one. Rudolph, I assume that's Rudolph, looks very different. And Eva, her fashion style changed drastically. Assuming that's them. But yeah. Alright.
My rose is here! Look for it! Look for it!
Maria stomped her feet in irritation. She pointed at the spot and said it was definitely there, but in actuality, it wasn't. Even so, Maria got mad when we said we were going to search elsewhere. We were at a loss for what to do. For a while, we had to stay near Maria and pretend to search through that rose thicket.
Not here! Not here! Not here!
Maybe she's saying that it should be here, but it isn't. Maria became increasingly irritated. Oh man, Maria's really losing her temper. Sometimes Maria really starts to care about really pointless stuff. If she gets what she wants, that's okay, but you can't find something that isn't there. That's not good. Just when we were at a loss of what to do, Maria called out in a loud voice.
Mama!
We could see Aunt Rosa in the direction Maria was waving her hand. Maybe she wanted to look at the garden one more time before the typhoon came. Or maybe she had some business at the guest house. Aunt Rosa was coming from the mansion. She quickly noticed her daughter's voice and came over. My, what's happened, everyone? Are you looking for something?
Look for it! Mama, you look for my rose too!
Your rose? We found an unhealthy rose around here and marked it. We tied a candy wrapper around it. But, Maria, if I remember correctly, it was growing right in front and really stood out, didn't it? Unless it grew legs and ran off somewhere, it must have been somewhere else. Maybe you remembered it wrong.
It is here! It is here! Battler doesn't believe!
How many times do I have to tell you to stop saying ooh before you'll understand? Mama will look for it, so stay quiet. I'd never seen Aunt Rosa be anything other than kind and gentle, so her anger surprised me a bit. Aunt Rosa began searching as well, so we went along with her for the time being. We were already more than sure that it wasn't around here. So it didn't take long for Aunt Rosa to realize that too. The rose isn't here. Did you mistake this place for somewhere else? There are so many roses around.
That's wrong! It is here! Mama doesn't believe!
I already believed you and looked hard for it, didn't I? But it isn't here.
But it is here! It is here, but it isn't!
Then someone must have ripped it out. Anyway, stop saying ooh.
Who ripped out my rose? Who did? Give it back! Give it back!
How should I know? Stop it! Stop saying ooh. Oh. Aunt Rosa slapped Maria's left cheek with her palm. In that instant, Maria was shocked into silence. Of course, it was only for an instant. When Maria realized that her wish was being rejected, she started yelling even louder.
My rose! My rose!
Didn't I tell you to stop that weird habit? That's why all the kids in your class make fun of you! Cut it out! Once again, her palm slapped Maria's cheek. This time, she didn't go silent. She choked as she started crying, and began to bawl in an increasingly loud voice. Like mother, like father, literally? In front of the cousins, too? Like, hello? Aunt Rosa was clearly irritated and lifted her hand once more to try and shut her daughter up. Aunt Rosa, now, she's just a little kid, so there's no reason to get so serious. I tried to cut in with a bitter smile, rubbing my hands together, but Aunt Rosa glared at me with a serious face, and I realized that I should have stayed out of this. I'm sorry, but could the rest of you go back to your room for a bit? I need to have a little talk with Maria. What a horrible creature, literally.
Nobody believes in my rose, even though it was here. Look for it. Look for it. Here. It was here.
But it's not here, so you must have confused this place for somewhere else, right?
It is here. It's definitely here.
Then it disappeared. Give it up.
Why? Why did it disappear? Why? Why?
I don't know that, so stop saying ooh. Aunt Rosa once again raised her hand, overcome by emotion, and slapped Maria's cheek. Rosa is on my hate list? Absolutely. It was strong enough to knock Maria over. Hey, Aunt Rosa, even if she is your daughter, violence isn't the answer. I stepped between them to protect Maria, who was still on the ground, crying ooh. I knew that, as an outsider, problems between parent and child were none of my business. But I wasn't brought up to just silently observe something like this. Don't you think it's weird, Battler-kun? Are there any girls at your school who mutter ooh? Well, I am in high school, but for an elementary schooler, I think saying ooh is pretty cute. Cute? Saying ooh is cute? Cute? My careless words seemed to have earned me Aunt Rosa's wrath. She grabbed my collar with a terrifying expression. Don't say such nonsense! Do you know how old Maria is? She's 9! She's a 4th grader, not a kindergartner, but she still makes that sound during class. Don't you get it? Do you know what they say about this kid when they bully her? Thanks to this weird habit, she still hasn't made a single friend. Don't turn your eyes from reality and carelessly call Maria cute. Think more seriously about this kid's future. I told you, stop making that sound! Didn't I tell you to stop it? Aunt Rosa struck Maria's quivering head, from which an increasingly unhappy voice was rising. I tried to stop it, but Aunt Rosa pushed me away. My back hit George Aniki. A long time ago, Aunt Rosa also thought of it as nothing more than one of Maria-chan's baby words, but now that it hasn't been fixed even midway through elementary school, she's been worrying about it a lot. How she talks isn't really that big of a deal, right? She'll never make it as an adult if she's like that. So even though it isn't fun to watch, this is a problem between parent and child. Sir, this is abuse. Well, even I get chewed out by Mom all the time because of how I talk. When they put it that way, maybe even a scene as painful as this isn't something an outsider like me should butt in on. Adler-kun, when you were a kid, didn't you have any bad habits that you couldn't fix and that got you in trouble? Well, 1 or 2. On Parents' Day once, I kept getting yelled at in front of everyone, and it was embarrassing as all hell. Well then, you can understand how the 2 of them must feel right now. I'm sure they don't want us to be here now. You understand that too, don't you, Jessica-chan? I don't think anyone likes to be seen when they're being scolded. Let's go. We'll return to the guest house. Then, after Maria-chan comes back, let's welcome her as if nothing happened. That's probably for the best, isn't it? We thought George Aniki's point was probably a reasonable one, and we may have been eager to use that reasonable-sounding argument as a justification to retreat from this heart-rending scene. Jessica and I nodded at George Aniki, and we all left. We called towards Maria, telling her that we were going to head to the guest house, but she didn't seem to hear, and we felt sort of guilty and shameless after saying it. That's not scolded, that's like multiple forms of abuse. That's what I mean, like, and they're just leaving? I thought George was supposed to be reasonable. This is not reasonable. In that case, look by yourself as much as you want. Mama doesn't care!
I'll look for it. I'll look for it by myself. Even if Mama doesn't care.
Have it your way! After blasting her with those last few words, Rosa spun on her heels and quickly returned to the mansion. Maria probably viewed that as a cold gesture meant to injure, but that wasn't Rosa's intention. It was because the hand with which she had so emotionally struck Maria's cheek was still numb. It was because, if she stayed there screaming, she might again be taken over by her emotions and continue slapping her daughter's cheek over and over. They're trying to make her seem like a good mother still, but nah. After Rosa left, Maria was left alone in the rose garden. The wind began to blow stronger and stronger, and every once in a while, a raindrop would fall on her forehead. However, Maria couldn't leave that place. Not until she found that poor wilting rose. Since her introduction, she sucked. Yeah, not very strong to begin with, and now it's just bad. It had definitely been there. Even so, it wasn't. Even though she knew the place, and even though it had been there, it wasn't. Maria bitterly stared at the place it was supposed to be and thought frantically. Maybe the angle I'm looking from is wrong. Maybe the height I'm looking from is wrong. While gazing at a single point, Maria repeatedly stood up, changed her position, and continued to stare. The wind was getting stronger and stronger, but Maria kept on looking for that rose in front of the flower bed. Kinzo noticed the sound of the raindrops beating on the window. It seemed to be pouring down thickly. It had begun to rain later than the weather report had predicted. Kinzo approached the window as if being summoned by the sound of the rain. The sound of rain is a sound of silence. That sound feels quieter than any silence, and makes humans remember that, in the end, they are alone from the moment they're born to the moment they die. You're late, Beatrice. Were those words directed at the rainy sky? There was no one to be seen in the direction of Kinzo's gaze. Well then, let us begin. Let us begin our banquet of miracles. This island has now been cut off from the world. Now there are none who can interrupt my ceremony. There are many fitting sacrifices for you. 4 of my children, 3 of their companions, 4 of my grandchildren, me and my guests and my servants. You may devour as many as you please. The key of fate will select the sacrifices in accordance with the demon's roulette. That roulette chooses me, then I will become your sacrifice. However, because of that, because I will bet on such madness, I will most assuredly bring forth a grand miracle. Come, devour to your heart's content. I will achieve victory over that roulette. Yes, I'll put everything on the line. First, I'll return the inheritance of the Ushinomiya family. I missed 2 minutes and Kinzo's devouring people? No, he's summoning Beatrice to devour people. He said, look, this island is cut off now. There are plenty of sacrifices. Come and eat. Accept it. Kinzo tore the window open, ripped a golden ring off his finger, and forcefully threw it away. At that time, the sound of thunder rang out, giving the illusion that the lightning had accepted the ring. And when you are resurrected, surely I will be the one who stands witness. I will survive until the end and watch over you as you awaken. So come, Beatrice. Welcome to my banquet. In exchange for all that I have created, Show me another miracle just this once. Why does he got limerence for a cannibal? I mean, maybe, I don't know. Oh, Beatrice. A news ticker popped up on top of the TV program we were watching. The disaster report told how municipalities all over were continually sending out rain, flood, and wave warnings. What in the drama reel? Of course, the raindrops beating harshly on the window were even more convincing. This rain's incredible. Still, when it's raining this hard, it also feels like it might stop at any moment. You wish. They said the typhoon's moving slow, so it might be like this all day tomorrow. And even a little bad weather stops the boats from coming. It looks like we won't be able to head out on Sunday after all. Just in case, I cleared all outside business from my Monday schedule, and I'm glad I did. Which means, looks like we'll get to skip school Monday. Living on an island's starting to sound pretty good. Come to think of it, Jessica, you've got to take a boat to school every day, don't you? Ooh, they're stuck. They're so dead. What do you do when the boats stop running? Do you stay home when it rains and show up late when the wind's blowing, like King Kamehameha? If the boats don't come, I stay home. Still, it's not as good as it sounds. Usually, I'm ordered to study by myself, and it's not that fun with someone standing right behind you watching everything you do. During the rainy season, does the weather ever stay bad for a long time and make you miss a bunch of days in a row? I think they might be stuck longer than a day. They're going to be stuck the rest of their lives, which will probably not be very much longer. That does happen sometimes. Still, I get a call from my homeroom teacher every single day, who'd sourly guide me on how I should teach myself and what I had to turn in. She can't skip school as easily as you're imagining, Madeline. She's got to follow the rules for people that travel to school by boat and get a good amount of studying done. It'd actually be easier to just go to school. In my own room, I get distracted and can't concentrate. After being made to do nothing but workbooks for several days straight, it's pretty hard to handle all that mental stress. Beatrice is hungry! She craves sustenance. When I get into college, I really just want to go to some dorm and quickly say goodbye to this inconvenient island. Ah, okay. By the way, what do you do when the weather's good in the morning, but then gets so bad on your way home that the boats are closed? Do you spend the night at school? That actually happens a lot. Because of that, they've built some lodgings there for people who can't get back to the island they live on. That's where you'd spend the night. Sometimes, when it gets really bad, you can't get home for a few days at a time. Someone commuting to school or work on a train packed to twice its capacity might carelessly think that commuting by boat would be pretty interesting and fun. But it sounds like it comes with troubles of its own. You hear thoughtless tourists saying stuff like that all the time. I've had enough of island life. I really want to just graduate high school and say goodbye to this island. But there are all dorm schools even for high school, right? Why'd you choose that Nijima school of all places? I wanted to go to one of those from the beginning, but Mom's always going on about how I need to learn manners and discipline as the successor. So I ended up sticking close to home even for high school. And I hate this island. I just want to go live in a city. I don't care if rain or even spears fall from the sky, as long as I can move to a city where I can wear casual clothes and sandals. Are they all in separate rooms? I think Battler and George are sharing a room. And then I assume that Maria's staying with her mom, and then Jessica has a room in the main house. And can get to a convenience store in less than 5 minutes. Hold out just a little longer. Just a bit more, and you'll graduate high school, right? I can't wait a little longer. Jessica's going to get Hinamizawa syndrome for leaving the island. So true. Jessica stretched out and reclined in the sofa. In the sofa? I assume that's on the sofa. Maybe it was a bad time slot, because there weren't any interesting programs on, and we had nothing to do but languidly kill time until we were called for dinner. After that episode, Maria never returned to the cousin's room after all. Aunt Rosa probably took her back to the mansion. Oh, she's still outside, isn't she? It had been pretty boring for Maria, all by herself while the adults had had a confusing conversation. We thought we might as well head over to the mansion to see her. The weather was really awful. And since there wasn't much time until dinner, we stayed where we were. At that time, we heard the sound of a humble knock. Jessica answered. Yes! The preparations for dinner are complete. Please come to the mansion. It was Kanonkun's voice. Did he go through all the trouble of coming from the mansion in this rain just to get us? Couldn't he have just called us on the telephone? Well, I guess servants at work don't always get to take the most efficient route. Just when I was getting hungry. Let's go. Yordaniki turned off the television and stood up. My stomach's been growling for a while. I've always been a huge fan of the main family's dinners. And didn't Goda-san say it was a calf steak or something? Ooh, I can't wait! Our dinners are always even more fabulous than usual when the family conference comes around. Even I'm looking forward to it. Let's go, let's go. As we left the room, Kanon-kun bowed slightly and respectfully. Okay, let's go. Is the rain pretty nasty out there? Yes. Take care not to get your garments wet. After seeing the three of us out, Kanon-kun peered into the empty room. Wasn't Maria-sama with you? No, she's not. Wasn't she with Aunt Rosa? Rosa was lying on a sofa in the empty parlor, having fallen asleep before she knew it. She was bearing a burden that the children couldn't even imagine. That's why she only needed to let her guard down a little, before the weariness immediately dragged her into the world of sleep. Realizing this, Genji brought a blanket over to her. When he tried to spread it over her, her eyes snapped open as though she'd been shocked with electricity. Ah! Thank you, Genji-san. When she realized that the thing that had touched her was just a blanket, and that Genji had been considerately giving it to her, she let out a sigh of relief. Did I wake you? My sincere apologies. No, it's okay. I hadn't planned on sleeping in the first place. What time is it now? When he was asked for the time, Genji checked a pocket watch that he took out of his chest pocket. Slightly after 6. Rosa gave her head a little shake when she realized that not much time had actually passed, even though it felt like she'd slept for ages. Even though she didn't feel rested at all, the drowsiness that had enveloped her must have been pretty deep. Thank you. I'll be fine without the blanket. I mustn't sleep at such a strange time. My sense of time has been completely thrown off. The rain has finally started pouring down in earnest, hasn't it? Rosa finally realized that the peaceful sound that had put her to sleep was actually the rain. The wind's blowing hard, too. I wonder if the typhoon's finally here. That's what they said on TV. The typhoon is moving slowly, so they think it'll be like this all day tomorrow. Really? So, our last chance to see that wonderful rose garden must have already passed by. From the window, what she could see of the rose garden was completely blurred by the wind and the rain. Maria. That's right. What about Maria? I've not seen her. Did she not return to the guest house? Rosa knew her daughter's nature well, so a chill ran down her spine. Maria was stubbornly honest, and if she was ordered to find something that didn't exist, she would look forever and ever. Even in pouring rain. No. The cousins left before I did, so Maria was alone. Unless someone told her to stop, she'd stay there even if it started raining spears. Without even opening an umbrella. Ugh, how could I have lost control of my emotions and done such a thing? Even though she'd known about Maria's simple honesty better than anyone, she'd once again lost control of her emotions and done something terrible. Maria! Rosa pushed Genji away and ran down the hall. The outside really looked like a typhoon, and the rain was pouring down spectacularly. Maybe because of some aspect of the terrain, the winds weren't typhoon class, so an umbrella wouldn't be torn out of one's hands. Even so, it certainly was a windy rain. There was no time to admire the roses being drenched. Anyway, I'm getting pretty worried about Maria. You don't think she's still rebelliously searching for that rose alone, do you? I wonder. Surely she wouldn't do it in this rain. Or at least, I wish I could believe that, but Maria-chan sometimes gets really stubborn and intensely straightforward. We hadn't worried much, thinking that Aunt Rosa had taken her back to the mansion. However, when Canon-kun had come from the mansion to call us and thought Maria was here, we got a little worried. I did not see her in the mansion, so I was sure she was here. After all, Rosa-sama was taking a nap.
You didn't see her on your way over here?
My apologies. I opened my umbrella and ran as fast as I could, so I did not pay much attention.
If he had cut through the rose garden, taking the shortest line between the mansion and the guest house, then he would have just barely missed the place where Maria had been looking for her rose. And it was raining this hard, too. It certainly would have been possible for Canon-kun to fail to notice her. Instead of arguing around here, it'd be faster to just check it out directly. Aniki, why don't we race over there?
Oh, you think you could beat me now that you've been growing for 6 years? Okay, let's settle this. Go!
George, Aniki, and I flew out into the rain. Jessica and Canon-kun followed us. Maria! If you're there, answer me! Maria!
It's Aunt Rosa. Hey, Aunt Rosa.
While George Aniki called back, Aunt Rosa jumped at him and grabbed onto him. Where's Maria? Isn't she with you?
No, we didn't meet with Maria-chan after that.
Maria!
6 years ago, Maria was 3 years old. She was a cute and pure kid who just accepted whatever anyone said. But 6 years have passed since then. She's 9 now and experiencing the ups and downs of life should... Oh, she's 9 now, and experiencing the ups and downs of life should have taught her something. But, Maria, are you telling me you're still as innocent and pure as you used to be?
Maria!
As I circled the rose bed, something white unexpectedly turned to face me. It was a white umbrella. Maria was crouching down, holding a white umbrella and still searching for that rose. Her face, which had turned bright red from her crying her eyes out, was dirtied with water and mud. It was a truly pitiful sight.
Maria! Are you still looking? Can't find it. Can't find my rose.
Maria had probably been here since the rain started pouring down. Her shoulders were freezing. She looked tired to the bone, but fortunately, since she was holding an umbrella, she wasn't completely soaked. The umbrella probably came from the handbag Maria always carried around. Thank goodness. Seriously, thank goodness. Adler-kun, thank goodness you found her.
Maria! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Aunt Rosa threw her umbrella aside and hugged Maria.
It's not here. My rose isn't here.
I'll look for it with you later, okay? So just put it on hold for today, okay?
Put on hold for today?
It looked like Maria still wasn't able to accept it, but she no longer had enough energy left to resist. Jessica and Canon-kun caught up to us. I'll have a towel ready in the mansion immediately.
Maria, were you here this whole time?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being such a bad mother. Aunt Rosa, why don't we head back to the mansion for the time being? If we stay here, Maria will catch a cold. You're right. Maria, let's go. If we don't get you cleaned up, Grandfather will be mad.
Hungry.
It's already time to eat. You did a good job holding out, Maria. Once the weather gets better, we'll all go search together. We couldn't stay in the rain forever. We took Maria with us as we headed back to the mansion. Maria apparently wasn't as worn out as I thought. When she remembered we were having calf steak for dinner, she started chanting,
I'm hungry! I'm hungry!
And returned to her usual spirited self. Aunt Rosa didn't chide Maria for saying ooh. I see. So she had an umbrella on her. Maria sure is good at packing the right stuff.
I didn't bring an umbrella.
What? Then how did you get that white umbrella you're holding?
I borrowed it.
Some caring person must have brought her an umbrella. A normal kid would look for shelter once it started raining. But Maria was too stubborn to give up so easily. So maybe that caring person gave up on telling Maria to find shelter and decided to at least give her an umbrella. I see. I'll have to thank that person. Who was it?
Beatrice!
The name Maria cheerfully mentioned was that of the island's witch. Rosa took a deep breath and asked again, trying to do so in a way that wouldn't damage Maria's good mood. Really? That's wonderful. So, who was it? Who brought you that umbrella?
Beatrice!
Maria immediately realized that her mother didn't believe her and started crying out unhappily again. So Rosa stopped pursuing the subject. It'd probably be faster to ask whoever lent Maria the umbrella during dinner rather than ask Maria herself. So Beatrice is here. She has already arrived. Father, please at least join us for dinner. It won't be a family conference otherwise. Along with the dull pounding on the door, the sound of Krause's entreaty could be heard. However, that voice seemed to be resigned to the fact that nothing it said would be heard. Kinzo-san, won't you at least come out for dinner? All your children have gathered here to see your face, haven't they? Silence, Nanjo. So, the bishop won't work. One move too short. Apparently, Kinzo was completely focused on the final battle of his long-lasting chess match with Nanjo. Kinzo's brow was wrinkled as he continued to glare at the game board through his spectacles. Krause's voice didn't reach his ears. Kinzo-san, I am hungry myself. Why don't we go down and eat? Go by yourself, if that's what you want. Let me consider this next move for a little longer. I'm going to finish it tonight. Otherwise, it's doubtful we'll finish before the world ends. Nanjo rose from his seat, hoping that this would prompt Kinzo to do the same, but Kinzo's eyes never left the chessboard. He knew well that Kinzo always displayed a blind concentration when it came to chess, but he'd never seen Kinzo concentrate as hard as this. It was almost as though Kinzo was telling the truth, that there would never be another chance for them to continue their contest if they didn't finish tonight. It seemed that, no matter how obstinately he called out to Kinzo, it wouldn't reach the latter's heart. Nanjo gave up and headed to the door that Krause was still banging on. The door to the study opened. Krause was taken aback, thinking that maybe Kinzo was actually coming out. However, Nanjo was the one who appeared, and Krause let out a sigh of relief. Dr. Nanjo, his father... I'm sorry I couldn't be of service. Right now, this room is Kinzo-san's whole world. Nanjo shook his head with a completely defeated expression. Krause raised his fist once more and banged on the door, shouting, Father, can you hear me? We're heading down now, but please join us anytime you feel like it. All of your children are waiting for you. His voice was very loud, and he was making a racket pounding on the door. There was no way it wouldn't reach Kinzo's ears. Well, it certainly was reaching him, but he ignored it anyway. However, unlike the time he'd been called down for lunch, he didn't fly into a rage. By now, Kinzo was calm at heart, almost as though he had taken on a philosophical view and turned himself over to fate. Neither dinner nor the faces of my children interest me in the slightest. I will only leave here if Beatrice is resurrected, or if I am chosen as a sacrifice for the key. The demon's roulette has already started spinning. What meaning does dinner have at this point? Calm at heart. He's not calm. Welcome in, Bedwards. Yeah. Resigned might be a better word. He is anxiously awaiting the witch, who his granddaughter has already seen, according to her, so maybe Bro should step out of the room. As though the painfully loud banging on the door completely failed to enter his hearing, Kinzo silently thought about his next chess move, still in his philosophical state. Just as always, Kinzo's figure couldn't be seen anywhere in the dining hall. Krause, wearing a bitter smile, returned with Nanjo. Father says he's still not feeling well. He truly regrets missing his once-a-year opportunity to sit together with his gathered family. Eva and Rudolph snickered. Given Kinzo's personality, there was no way he'd show signs of regret, and none of his relatives showed any regret at his absence. Why don't we start dinner? Yoda, begin. Certainly. Well then, if you will allow me. When Goda was told to start the family conference dinner, his biggest time to shine of the whole year, he nodded with a broad grin. May I ask who lent Maria an umbrella? When Rosa timidly cut through the silence of the dining hall, everyone noticed. An umbrella? What is this about? A short while back, Maria was in the rose garden when it started raining, and she apparently borrowed a white umbrella from someone. I wanted to thank them. It wasn't one of us. After you left, we moved to a different room and had a friendly chat the whole time. Haha, that's right. Even after that, the siblings had a real friendly chat. The word friendly fell awkwardly from Hideyoshi's lips, so even those who hadn't been present could tell the conversation hadn't been a pleasant one. At the very least, it couldn't have been me, Eva, Rudolph, Hideyoshi-san, or Kiryu-san. We were together the whole time, even after Natsuhime-san and Rosa-san left. The whole time until the meal started. Nii-san went up to the study with Genji-san to call father. After that time, the rest of us went straight to the dining hall, so it wasn't one of us. Couldn't it have been a servant kind enough to lend an umbrella? So, was it you, Goda-san? I've been in the kitchen the whole time preparing. My sincere apologies. Goda looked slightly disappointed about missing this chance to show off. At that time, Shannon and Kumasawa appeared, pushing a serving cart loaded with hors d'oeuvres. Then what about Kumasawa-san or Shannon-chan? Yes? Has something gone wrong? Because Shannon had come in part way, she shrank back, mistakenly thinking that the others were searching for the one responsible for some error. It isn't like that. It started to rain when Maria-chan was alone in the rose garden. After that, someone lent her an umbrella. And Rosa said she wanted to thank that person.
Beatrice!
Maria, her mouth a thin line, said the witch's name in a small voice. And Rosa explained the situation one more time. As she did, Kumasawa-san cackled.
It wasn't us. Shannon-san and I were preparing the rooms together, so we did not go outside.
Yes, I'm sorry I wasn't able to be of assistance.
Preparing the rooms? What do you mean by that?
Because of the rain. We thought it would be troublesome for all the guests to return to the guest house, so the servants were ordered to prepare the guest rooms inside the mansion.
Really? How thoughtful.
Yes, it certainly would be rude to chase us outside in this rain.
Did you give it a rest?
Yes, after receiving the order from Madam, Kumasawa-san, Kanon-kun, and I started preparing the rooms. Then it became time for dinner, so Genji-sama ordered Kanon-kun to go to the guest house and summon the children.
Yes. So, did Kanon-san find Maria on the way to the guest house and hand her the umbrella? Wrong!
The person who had actually received the umbrella denied it. Rosa was troubled. All she wanted to do was give a word of thanks to the person who had lent the umbrella, but she couldn't find them. And she thought asking like this with everyone gathered for dinner would work immediately. Then, was it you, Natsuhine-san? I'm sorry. After everyone's friendly chat, my headache was so bad that I've been resting in my room. Therefore, I did not go outside. Then, who was it? George-kun and the kids? That can't be right. No, it wasn't us. We were watching television in the guest house the whole time.
Actually, we thought Maria had just gone back to the mansion with you.
Then Kanon-kun came and he asked whether Maria was with us. That's when we first realized she wasn't in the mansion. I mean, if it were me, I'd have grabbed her hand and pulled her under a roof before giving her an umbrella.
Rosa was completely baffled. One by one, the relatives and the servants denied that they had done it, even though it really wasn't something anyone would need to hide. So, by process of elimination, the number of remaining candidates wasn't large.
Of course, it wasn't me. Right after it began raining, I visited Kinzo-san's room, and I was playing chess with him until just now.
Which means that it also wasn't grandfather.
Wait a sec. Isn't this starting to get a bit weird? Who's left?
Then, who was it? Genji-san? Huh? Wait a second. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm searching for some culprit or anything. All I want to do, as a mother, is to thank the person who gave Maria an umbrella in the middle of the rain. Giving an umbrella to a girl loitering in the rain was something to be praised, not hidden.
Despite that, no one raised their hand. Why not? Everyone started whispering about how strange this was getting. Calm down, Rosa. Why don't we just ask the person who was lent the umbrella? That's what everyone had been thinking since the beginning. They were all scratching their heads at why she didn't just ask Maria, who'd been given the umbrella. However, Rosa bit her lower lip. After all, she already knew how Maria would answer if asked. Of course! Rudolph-kun here has got it right! Maria-chan, tell your uncle! Who lent you the umbrella?
Beatrice!
The dining hall was wrapped in silence for an instant. It was soon interrupted by a burst of laughter. I see! So, Beatrice, the witch of the forest, felt pity and lent her an umbrella. What a lovely story! Rosa, there you have it. Rosa couldn't believe it. Even though she just wanted to say thanks for the umbrella, why did everything have to be so clouded in smoke?
Just like Uncle Kraus said. Beatrice let me borrow it.
Isn't that wonderful? We should all be jealous of such purity. What do you think, everyone? Kraus was laughing with a face that was clearly mocking. But Maria was overjoyed, apparently convinced that her claim was being believed. How did that work? Does that mean a witch really appeared and lent her an umbrella? Jessica asked in a small voice that wouldn't carry over to Maria, who was sitting across from me. Has Maria ever been the type to make jokes? If we'd heard that kind of story pop out of my old man's mouth, we would have just taken it as another joke. However, it was hard to explain it away like that when Maria said it. This was getting pretty unnerving. No way. She's always been frank and serious. She's the sort who'd believe any joke, even ones normal people could instantly tell were lies. I've never even heard of her cracking a joke. Aunt Rosa probably knew that better than anyone. It appeared that because of this weird situation, she had no idea what was going on anymore. So, if Maria says she borrowed an umbrella from Beatrice, that must mean it really was Beatrice. We're talking about Maria here, so I can't think of it as some kind of metaphor or joke. It might be best to take what she says at face value. Then what's going on? Are you saying Genji-san or someone put on that fancy dress from the portrait and gave Maria the umbrella? I'm not sure about that. Actually, that's what I want to know. Jessica shrugged jokingly, but her expression didn't completely match her attitude. Once the hors d'oeuvres were set out and Goda showed off his vast store of knowledge, the meal began. A couple casual chats broke out here and there, but they seemed somehow distant, and the meal ended up being so quiet that you couldn't ignore the sound of the rain sneaking into the dining hall. Alright, I think we're going to stop here for today. We are learning much. This is very exciting. How do I return to title deck? Alright, and we're going to send out a raid